welcome. My name is Kelly Patrick. Thank you for joining me today. In this episode, I am going to talk about the power of presence. As some of you may or may not know, I have been reading The Power of Now by Echart Tolle with my book club. And from it, I've had some really great insights, some deep reflection, some aha moments. And I wanted to get out here and share with you today some of the practices that I do and that I have studied, maybe done in the past, or maybe just have read about or I know about, as to give you tools to help support you in practicing presence. The biggest question I had, and I only just got done with chapter 5. We are now on chapter 6. My biggest question is, what practices can I engage in to help me be more present? And then the second part of that is, how can I maintain the discipline? So first off, I want to address the discipline part, because we all have challenges with staying disciplined, staying motivated to stay on track when you are doing any kind of practice or anything. That could be the way you eat, an exercise routine, maybe it's habits that you want to either get into, or maybe habits that you want to break and you don't want to fall back into those old same behavior patterns, right? So I had this conversation with my bestie, and I'm like, how do we stay disciplined in these practices? You got to know your why. Your why needs to drive you. It's something we learned from Tony Robbins and from, many thought leaders out there. It's that find your why. It can keep you going and motivated every single day. So I asked myself, what is my why? Why do I want to do these practices, to be disciplined in them? What is that driving force for me? And everybody's going to be different. So for me, I want to be more present because it keeps me out of the past. I don't drag my past and my story in any victimhood, any guilt, any shame into this present moment. Because what that will do is taint the future, and I can't project myself into a higher vibrational future when I'm stuck in the past. Being in the present moment actually slows down the aging process. There's probably research studies out there, guys. I don't know, but Echart Tolle says this in the book. When we are living in that present moment, in the now, it actually lifts and raises our vibration. When we are in a higher vibration, the vibrations of love, of kindness, of gratitude, we attract more of that to us. And at the same time, when our bodies are in those higher vibration, our bodies are better able to heal any diseases that may be in it. And then the third factor behind that raised energy vibration is that it repels any negativity. You will no longer be attracting lower vibration, darkness, shadows, whatever you want to call it. So for me, that is my why. I want to live more in the now so that I can slow down my aging process, so that I can think more clearly, so that I can be more creative, more imaginative, so that I can have the higher energy to attract things to me, and that I can propel myself into a greater future. finally, my why is that I oftentimes, and I'm a lot better than I used to be, is I would worry about the future, worry about how things are going to turn out. I looked for my security in knowing and planning, and I would rehearse what I was going to say before I would even go to an event, because if I ran into somebody, I'd want to feel like I'm knowledgeable in that. But I found that by practicing the present moment, I don't even have to do that practicing my lines before the event, because I stand in a more clear frame of mind and more steady state of being, that it naturally just flows up from the deep wisdom that I already have within myself. So going back to the practices of presence. And first of all, you can find an article in my blog post out on my website, going over all these with links to just different resources, as well as I just am sending out a newsletter, The Power of Presence. And in this newsletter, it states that these several practices that I see could help somebody on the path to being more present. And I feel like when you're more present, you are that much more empowered in the world. So in this, I'm going to go over some of these practices. So the first one, and everybody's different. Things resonate with you in a different way. It's always sometimes it could be your intention when you are going into this practice, whether, how effective or not this would work for you. And I'm not saying these are the ways and these are the things that you will be more present. What I'm asking you to do is go about them, try them out, look over the list, what resonates with you. And then from there, use the mind of curiosity to try them out and see how they work for you. Everybody is different. We all have our own unique individual ways of seeing and being in the world. And something that may not have worked for you years ago may work now. So the first one that I have on my list, and these aren't in any hierarchy of order, but the first one I addressed was breath meditation. And what I love about breath meditation is it's a great tool, very effective to cultivate presence, because it's so easy. We can do it either in a formal practice or we can do it in our daily practice. And the differentiation between those two are, in a formal practice, we sit, it's like we're doing, obviously we get ready for meditation, but our focus is the breath. And we focus on the breath moving in and out of our body. Where is the breath in our body? It's moving. We are present right here, right now with the breath. We watch for thoughts to arise. And when they do, that's the key moment. And we bring our attention back to our breath. I say we use the breath as an anchoring tool in meditation, a one-pointed focus to come back to time and time again. We're right here present in this moment with our breath. And we practice this in a formal practice because what it'll do is it's training the mind to pay attention and aware of thoughts when we're out in day-to-day activity. Now, to bring the breath meditation into your day-to-day practice could be like all of a sudden you feel anxiety, something descends on you, one thing after another. Stop, pause, and you take a breath. You bring your focus back to that breathing, back to that breath. It could be 30 seconds. It could be a minute. It could be maybe you have time to say, I just need to take a breather, and you walk in the bathroom and you sit in there for a few rounds of breath. One of the things that I love to recommend to people is to do a 2-to-1 breath count, because when you do that, you are taking shorter inhales and longer exhales. And what that's doing is it's triggering the parasympathetic nervous system, which is actually calming your nervous system down. So another thing you can do in your day-to-day activity is when you are waiting in line or you're waiting in traffic, bring your focus to your breath. I like to say, where's my mind right now? And bring it back to my breathing and focus on my breath. It's a great mental break, and you can do it anywhere at any time. It's just to really remember to integrate that into day-to-day activities. The next thing is mindfulness meditation. And I went over just a really broad mindfulness meditation. We can actually bring mindfulness into every area of our lives by bringing awareness. What we're doing, being mindful when we're doing it, when we're washing our hands, feel the sensation of the water, feel the temperature, acknowledge that, being aware of that. When you're eating, you're sitting down, you're tasting your food. Is it hot? Is it cold? You're bringing your total focus awareness to it. That's mindfulness. That's bringing awareness to what you are doing. And it is that in itself is an empowering practice. To sit in a formal mindfulness meditation practice it's actually just bringing awareness to what is going on right now in this moment. Taking the breath, moving inward through the breath. What's coming up for you? What thoughts are coming up for you? And just without judgment, without criticism, without going down the rabbit hole of a story and trying to figure out why you are feeling the way you do, you just recognize you're there in the seat of the observer in the formal mindfulness practice. What sounds are going on? How loud are they? You're a step forward with that curious mind again and explore, what are you feeling in your body? Is it achy? Is it tight? Is it relaxed? And again, we are so conditioned to go down the rabbit hole of stories. I catch myself all the time, and even more so now that I'm practicing presence. So these practices, these meditation practices, are conditioning the mind to be aware of thought, to come back to a one-pointed focus, to not go down the rabbit hole of stories, okay, and just keep coming back to, whatever's going on, and just being like you're watching a movie and seeing everything that's going on to it. So the next one is embodiment practices, and this can be anything from yoga, tai chi, a body scan. And I love these because they're so grounding. It brings us back to our body. And Echart Tolle says that to be present, get rooted in your body. I love embodiment practices because it gets me out of my mind, gets me into my body, gets me out of my thoughts, gets me into the feeling of that being, that spiritual being that's within myself. So I love these practices too, because things like yoga helps to discharge any emotions and any overly, like when you're feeling a lot of stress and anxiety, yoga is a great way to disperse energy. It really gives you a great sense of presence. What I love about yoga, again, I don't practice Tai Chi or Qigong, but I've read and seen documentaries that had integrated different complementary practices within it. And so I talk a lot about yoga because that's where most of my experience is from. When we are on our mat, we are putting our bodies in a stressful situation. The mind doesn't know the difference between situational stress or that your body's in stress. So you're conditioning your mind to withstand a stressful situation. Because what happens when we are doing yoga? The teacher's cueing us. Get in this pose. It may be stressful. Breathe. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing into the pose, breathing out of the pose. It's actually getting in the pose, and we are actually putting this good stress on our body and then learning to breathe through it. And it's only going to last for a little bit, just like stress, just like being overwhelmed, just like any kind of anxiety. It's only going to last for a little bit. Be here now, breathe through it. You can do it. So I did give an example of a quick body scan practice, because body scanning is a very great grounding tool. Again, is taking our consciousness out of our thoughts, out of the mind, and bringing our consciousness into our body. We do a body scan and start off with our toes, moving up to our head, and we're really going inward and feeling the feeling, just feeling what does it feel like, but not describing it. And this is the hardest thing, because we're like, what does energy feel like? Well, you can't describe it to somebody. You have to experiential. You have to feel it. You have to go through the experience. So it's going through the body and feeling the energy, the sacred energy that's flowing within you, that's flowing within everyone and everything. A quick scan that Echart Tolle talks about is that in the morning, right upon waking, and in the evening, right before going to sleep, is you do a quick body scan. And he said this just takes a minute, starting off with the toes and going to the head and just feeling your being, the energy, the aliveness that's within you and every cell in your body. Last one I put was sacred listening. This isn't really talked about in the book as sacred listening, but it's something that I refer to as sacred listening. I went through the mindful-based stress reduction program. It's an 8-week program. It was originated, John Kabat-Zinn had come up with it. They teach a lot of it in different places, but they taught it through the university in the city I live in. And I went through it, and we did this awesome exercise. I sat like facing this way, another person sat facing the other way, and we each took turns. One person talked, one person listened. The person that was listening gave full attention, full awareness to what the person was saying without interruption, and just listening to what they say. Then we switched turns. It was the most deep sense of connection that I've had in a conversation with someone. All I needed to do was sit and listen. You didn't even know what to say when you were the speaker, right? You just started rambling thoughts. But it was such a rewarding experience. I often do it in workshops and in groups because I think it's just a really cool thing to experience. But you can bring this outside of just that, kind of like a formal setting, and bring this into your day-to-day life. That when someone's speaking, that you listen with your essence. You listen from your being. A lot of times when we're in a conversation, we are thinking how we want to respond to the person, or we aren't actually listening to what they say because we're formulating a thought. This is me. I get like really, really excited, and I want to say something to this person, or I want to ask them the question. So that's formulating in my mind, and I'm not listening to them, to what they're saying. I find myself doing this more often than not, and I've made it a mission to listen from my being. Just bringing awareness when my mind is doing it without judgment. And I just quickly come back. And I'm like, oh no, I redirect my mind. You need to listen. You need to listen. And I come back and I bring my full presence to that person. I call it sacred listening. Echart Tolle talks about listening for the silence. And there's like a sacred silence underneath all sound. there's a gap of silence between sounds. Out of the silence and stillness comes the form. We are to watch for the stillness and the silence in everyday life. You might say, oh, I got a lot of noise going around me. How can that be? But if there's an overpowering noise and then all of a sudden stops, there's a stillness. I like to listen to the birds sing, and then all of a sudden there's a stillness. There's a stillness now between my words. Between the sound, between your thoughts. The stillness, the silence, watching for it, waiting for it to come up, being that observer brings you more presence. Now, some of you, finally, I didn't write this in my email, but finally, what else will this sense of presence bring to me? How else could it benefit me? And I feel like the biggest thing is it makes us more kind, more compassionate. It brings a new sense of joy and happiness to our lives, a huge sense of freedom. And I feel that that's what we all are seeking, is a sense of freedom, a sense of joy and happiness. And all we need to do is go within and find it within ourselves. And these practices that I just went over are ways for you to get there. Thank you for joining me, everybody, today. If you want to sign up for my weekly newsletter, Soulful Spark, I release it every Thursday evening. Every week I give out tips to support people on their journey in life, on their soul journey, because that's the journey we all here to take. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. I love you. Take care.